Well, aloha kakahiaka, everybody. Welcome. I'm Peter Kay, and you are on the Aloha Friday Hawaii Real Estate Show. Today is July 8th, 2022, and I'm really happy to have you here as our good friends that we've got with us here. We have Dylan Nonaka from the Big Island. We have Heidi Dollinger. Welcome back, Heidi, who was out for a vacation. Back from Heidi is hailing from Maui, and Scott Startsman is with us on Oahu. Just want to say hello to everybody, and we have it's I don't know if it's becoming a contest or it's just becoming a thing, but it sure is kind of fun. People are leaving comments way before the show. Uncle Ray here, Uncle Ray dropped a comment an hour ago, I guess so, because he's heading out across Island to Kona. Before you all start, want to shout out to Dylan for his help and to say that the realtor he recommends, Chelsea, is wonderful. Mahalo, way to go, Dylan.
Hey, Chelsea's a fellow combat vet. She's amazing. So yeah,
Awesome.
glad she's working with Ray on that.
And that's a good mix because Ray is also served in the military as well, if I'm not mistaken. So excellent, and he's going to watch the replay of tonight, and so that's kind of cool. Chris jumped in not too much after Uncle Ray, about 40 minutes later. Chris Longley, happy Aloha Friday, happy Aloha Kakahiaka. Welcome back, Chris. Good to see you, buddy. And then Uncle Jim, hey, first time I saw the picture there, Uncle Jim. All right. Aloha kakahiaka, everyone. Happy Aloha Friday. Great to have you back with us, Jim, on a regular basis. You were missed. And Mark Whitehill, a Islander Ohana alumni. Aloha Hawaii Ohana. Looking forward to another great show. Mark, we're going to do our best. We got the best crew in the world here, and they're going to do their thing. Auntie Joyce is enjoying her beautiful day in the neighborhood. Love it. Hey, Steve, welcome back, Steve. Glad to make it on time. Glad that you're here with us, Steve. Glad that you're here. And how old is your son in that picture? That is a cute picture. Love the baby photos. Dwayne's back. Dwayne, welcome back, Dwayne from Kentucky. Hope all is well over there. And Patrick is back. Aloha from Germany. 64 days to go. All right, 60. It's the countdown. That's how many more shows of that's going to be. And Jason, Aloha Friday from Maui. Jason is out visiting us. He is a member of the Islander Ohana. Jason, sorry, bud, we couldn't get together. I was not able to make it. We had some bad weather, not bad, but relatively speaking, some windy weather, and couldn't make it. We're going to do a meetup at Makapu, but unfortunately, that did not work out. But next time, buddy, next time. Evil Hermit is here. Have a question for you guys. I have a tiny house in my backyard. Can I rent it out on Airbnb since I live on the property on the Big Island? So put that in the back of your head there, Dylan. That's a question for you. Tiny house in the backyard. Can I rent it out on Airbnb since I live on the property? I'm on the Big Island. So that's a question. And then Bernard is back. Hey, Bernard, welcome from New Jersey. Big hi to Scott. Excellent, Scott. You are in good hands with the team here, and we have a Facebook user. Okay, all right, Facebook user. Hello. All right, I think that we said hi to everybody. Let's warm up our microphones over here. Let's go counterclockwise. Let's go Scott, and then Heidi, and then Dylan. Scott, give us the update. How's Oahu going? What's happening? What's the shirt? What's the dig?
Oh man, I feel like I should. I've been trying to get settled into this house, so where I've moved to, and I feel like I should be owning stock in Pottery Barn or something. And it's been an interesting experience because there is no Pottery Barn on island. There's no Williams Sonoma on island. Even like Room and Board, which I really like for furniture. If you go to order something from Room and Board, the minimum shipment charge that they have, or the shipment charge that they have for anything that you buy is like $1,500 to ship it to Hawaii. So it just, for me, it showed the limitations that we have in Hawaii for access to certain things. So everything that I ordered from Pottery Barn was ordered online and was shipped here, including rugs and things such as that. So I feel like I should be owning stock in the company because, man, I've spent a fair amount of money with that place.
It's funny you mentioned the stock question because I get really depressed. Wait, is my mic? Yeah, I get really depressed if I think about over my 40 years in the technology business, right? If I instead bought stock in the companies instead of the equipment I bought, I would be much wealthier. I bought I bought an Apple II. So you feel better, Scott. I bought an Apple II in 1978. Back then it was $2,000 in 1978 money. Had I bought $2,000 of Apple stock, it's like $10 million. So should have bought the stock and not the computer. Anyway, thanks, Scott, for
I
the
saw a
update.
thing. I saw a thing on Tesla like that. If you'd have bought, if you spent the 70,000 on a Model S when it first came out in stock, it would be worth like $4 million now or something like that. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I got to remember that. Buy the stock and not the equipment. Heidi, what's going on? How you doing, Heidi? Welcome back. Good to see you again, Heidi.
I'm doing amazing. I was on the mainland visiting some family there, and one of the great things about living on Maui is it's never disappointing to come back home. It's just great to be back. It's a nice day here. It's actually a little bit overcast. We have this really, really light rain, but it's cool, and it's just fantastic to be here.
I don't think there's anything better, right, Heidi, than the return trip, right? When I think that moment, Scott, we've talked about this, many, many times. Scott has mentioned you get off the plane and boom, it's the warm, moist air and the smell of plumerias and all that stuff in the airport. There's just nothing better than that. So welcome back, Heidi. Good to have you back. Dylan, give us the Big Island mic check update, Aloha shirt, relay, etc. Give us what's going on.
Yeah, back to the Sig Zane this morning with the Kahlo print on it. Had a great in honor of a great week. This past weekend was 4th of July, and we made some lau and squid luau and a bunch of stuff from the yard, and had a bunch of friends over for the UFC fight. Max Holloway from Hawaii fought. Unfortunately, he lost, but that's always a big event here, is when you got a Hawaii boy fighting for a championship in the UFC. And it was a great 4th of July weekend with family and friends down at the beach. And yesterday I celebrated my 15th wedding anniversary, so it was a big day. But we didn't do anything special. We just did the same thing we do every week on Thursday. My wife went to hula, my boys and I went to jiu-jitsu, and we just, the way we live life is every day is a special day, right? So it's like you ain't got to go out of your way on a special day, because I'm trying to do it all the time. So
congratulations, man. 15 years, no small.
Goes by quick, man.
No small accomplishment. Yeah, we're actually we're looking forward to having my wife and I celebrated our 30th anniversary this past June, and we had a wonderful time. We did the old classic local staycation thing. We went to the Hilton Hawaiian Village, stayed at one of the units there. It was and Hilton Hawaiian Village is really cool because they have the fireworks show every Friday night. So we went there on Friday night, and they were really cool. They put us up in the room where the fireworks were literally going off, like right behind this, literally right there. It was so fun. It was excellent. I took a photo. I wish I had. I'd share it. Anyway, all right. Hey, geez, it's 9:03. Time's flying. We need to kind of move on. We're a little bit behind schedule, so we're gonna catch up real quick. Real quack. We're gonna catch up real quick, and let's get with some news over here. Let me get you folks the update here really quick. Got some fun stuff I found out over here. So we're gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about. We have a special show today. So, as I mentioned this earlier, we're going to talk about the economic impact on the real estate market. Big thing, but some interesting things. First of all, interest rates have surprisingly dropped a little bit. They went from the 30-year fell to 5.3 from 5.7, which is interesting. I think it's going to be a little bit of a break before it's going to go back up again. That's just my guess, but I want to hear what the experts say about that. And Dylan and I, Dylan always talks about living the dream, and actually it's such a great line. I incorporate part of it in what the messaging of Islander Ohana and the living in Hawaii. So live the dream in Hawaii. I am living the dream. It's true. Cats are living the dream on Lanai. So if you were a cat, you'd want to live here. This is a shot from there is a cat sanctuary on Lanai, and apparently it's the number one destination on the island of Lanai. Go figure. I guess people love cats. Cat sanctuary. I thought it was just kind of funny. There's cats that are living the dream. The story was interesting because they've got 600 cats. 667 cats, and they got room to spare for more. So it's where cats go to heaven while they're still alive. Interesting. So in the other one, Turo, we've talked about Turo a lot on the show. I've used it. Turo is one of these. It's like an Airbnb for car rentals. There was a law that was just passed in Hawaii. Death and taxes, right? Can't avoid it. So now the Turo tax is on. So if you get Turos through Hawaii, you will also pay for the associated taxes, just like you would if it was a rental car. I don't have all the details, but the bottom line is it's getting taxed. So that's out. And speaking of taxes, there was some kind of a story. I don't know if Dylan's going to comment on around. There's story about a little bit of an additional tax break on Big Island homeowners. That's the BI there. Big Island homeowners going to get a little bit of a tax break for residents. I don't know what the details are on that, but maybe if he's got some more info. And the weather, it's almost like I can copy and paste the weather from the previous week and paste it into this week for the temperatures. It's going to be a little bit cloudy, as Heidi has mentioned. It's been overcast. On Oahu, the weather over the past week was not so hot, but this morning it was raining, and my wife loves rainy weather, and it's kind of fun. It's the great time to enjoy as Heidi was saying, enjoy the coolness, the weatherness, and all that kind of stuff. So awesome. All right, let's get a quick sort of so here's the thing. Let's set this up first real fast. So we're gonna talk about the big topic for today is going to be, economic downturn. What's the right thing to do right now? That's the big topic. Before we get into that topic, I just want to go around really quick. If there's any kind of news updates, you could either speak to some kind of a news update or market update, or if you just kind of want to wait and do the talk, it's up to you folks how you want to do it. Let's go clockwise. Dylan, then Heidi, and then Scott. Dylan, go ahead.
Well, I'll comment on the Big Island tax break thing first. I don't have the data in front of me. I did a few weeks ago. I was deep diving into it, but it's one of those things politicians do on an election year, right? As they say, they give you a tax break, but if you run the math on it, it was so minuscule. It was like like $30 or $40 on a $1 million house or something. So not life changing money, and not something that I think is going to cause massive economic relief to homeowners. But anyway, moving on. The big news, I guess, in the real estate market is that inventory is rising rapidly. So we were, in a very low inventory market for a very long time, and we are back to above 1,800 properties on the market on the Big Island, which the last time there was that many properties in the market was February of 21. So we're kind of at a 17-month high right now in terms of the amount of properties that are on the market. That in context is still very low, though, right? We're still at 55% what the normal rate inventory levels are, because normally we have about closer to 3,000 properties on the market. So we're trending upwards. The big thing to do, the right thing to do now is I'm telling buyers that it's probably your best time to buy in the last 24 months, because not only is inventory higher, there's less competition. So the bad news that everybody is listening to and hearing, buyers are hearing it and sellers are hearing it, right? So buyers are depressed because they think everything's bad in the news and interest rates are high, and sellers are also getting a little more wary and scared because they're hearing all this bad news and they're willing to negotiate. So if you are in a position of buying, you need to buy, now's the time to do it, because you're in a better position to negotiate than you have been in really 24 months. And the thing to remember is, interest rates are not forever. That's the one thing about interest rates, is they always change. And unless you're buying to pay that interest rate for 30 years, which very, very few people do. I need to look that stat up and see how many people actually pay the same interest rate for 30 years. We all know everybody refinances every 3 to 5 years, every 10 years, it move. So to me, if you have a need for housing, the interest rate really should be irrelevant, especially when it's still as low as it is, because historically it's still 2 points under the historical average for the last 50 years.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting kind of see how this all plays out. Thanks for that update, Dylan. Heidi, give us the latest in Maui. What's any kind of Maui news you want to report on, or any kind of market stats you want to share?
Sure. I just wanted to comment. I've actually been to that cat sanctuary on Lanai, and it's really cool. It was really designed as a humane way to control the feral cat population, so they're not attacking and killing all the seabirds. There's no natural predators that would kill the cats, so cats can just live in the wilderness on Maui and Lanai. But this sanctuary, it's really nice. So if you're ever on Lanai and you like cats, definitely a must see.
Number one destination on Lanai, apparently.
On Maui, I mean, the real estate market's extremely robust. June median prices for single family homes were at 1,255, which is up 13.6% from the same month last year. Condo median prices are at 832.5, which is up 34.3% from same month last year. Our number of sales are down, number of properties going under contract is down. Inventory is increasing, but just a little bit for condos, it only increased about 3% last month. But I mean, I think what we're starting to see is a very gradual shift to a more balanced market, which is actually it's a great thing for buyers, because it means eventually more opportunities, more negotiating power than in the recent past. I mean, the growth that we've had this last couple years, I mean, it's probably unsustainable to keep going at that pace. So actually, some of the negative news could be positive, you know, depending on what your goals are and getting in the market here.
Excellent. Thanks, Heidi, for that update. It's so cool that you visited the cat sanctuary. That's totally awesome. I love it. We had a few more folks I want to kind of give a shout out to who came in off the show since we started. We have Jane. Jane's with us. Jane, happy Aloha Friday, Jane. We are glad that you are with us. And Candace is here. Aloha from Oregon. Well, welcome, Candace. I don't recall seeing your name here. If you're here for the first time, or at least you're commenting for the first time, welcome. Anyway, either way. Steve, that's my boys too. In the photo, turned 4 a couple weeks ago. Steve, he's going to be 20 tomorrow. Mark my words. Tomorrow he'll be 20, and then you're gonna hopefully you have good memories of those years past. Evil Hermit gives us the big shaka. Juliana is with us. Aloha Friday. Aloha, Juliana. Great to have you back with us. Auntie Joyce was probably at that 4th of July party, Dylan, because she says best laus ever, man. Happy anniversary, Dylan and Monica. Norm is a member of the Islander Ohana. Recently went to the Big Island. Aloha to everyone. Hope all is well. Thanks, Norm. I hope all was well with you. Hope you had that great trip and are enjoying it. Heather, alum of the Islander Ohana, aloha from Oregon, 13 days and counting for the big move. Eek. Congrats on 15 years, Dylan. Heather, it's got to be exciting. Heather is counting down her move, picking up and moving to Hawaii, which is again, living the dream, just like those cats. And Andre says around here they passed a preliminary tax budget in late June so that the public comment period is during the 4th of July. Who could object to loving their country during that time? I don't know, Andre. I don't know if anyone who loves paying their who loves taxes, but maybe. Jim and Kath, in a normal market, 5 to 7% is considered normal. I'm assuming you're referring to the interest rates. So yeah, it's been quite interesting. So with that, I think I've caught up on everyone's comments on there. Scott, your turn. You want to give us either a market update or a news update on Oahu? What's happening?
Yeah, real quick on Oahu. I mean, number of sales for condos and single family homes is slowing, so we are starting to moderate, but we're still at 1.5 months of inventory for single family homes and for condos. So there's zero inventory, which is going to really limit buyers' ability for any negotiation component. In fact, properties are selling for single family homes at 100% list to sales price ratio. Sellers are getting what they want. We still have 60% of the homes that are selling for over asking. And on the condo side, we're at 102% list to sales price ratio. So they're on average selling for more than what the seller is listing it for. And yeah, I mean, it's still really tight. And unless I don't see the inventory releasing a lot, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So I do think we're going to move back to a more normalcy, normal market, but it's going to take some time. Prices are still increasing, but sales have now started to show that they're slowing down, but there is zero inventory available.
Interesting. So we kind of almost have touched on, we've sort of introed into our next topic over here, but what I'm kind of sensing, it almost seems like the market's not quite, I mean, it's a cooling at best. It sounds like on Maui and Oahu at best, where maybe a little bit of a stronger cooling on the Big Island, but again, this the doom has not yet the doom has not yet arrived. Is kind of what it smells like. So why don't we do this? So before we kind of roll into our sort of our main event here, I just want to give you all kind of another quick heads up. If you got some questions, pop them in the comments now. I'm going to queue them up. I'll take a look at them, and we'll throw them up as we go along. We're going to have our discussion, as we mentioned, as our special event over here about the show. But I just want to give you all, you are here now live. You get priority. Give us the questions, and I'll pop them in. All right. So we're going to turn into our big topic over here. What's the right thing to do? I thought, it would be interesting if we had a discussion about this, because, right now there's There's all kinds of jitters. Some say that we're technically in a recession right now because we've had 2 quarters of negative growth. I don't think those stories have come out quite yet, but that seems to be what the prevailing case is. People are kind of worried. There's a lot of anxieties going on. I know that the Fed has announced that they're going to be raising rates again, I believe next month or this month. I'm not too sure, but rates are they're looking on their way up. So this is all about the real estate show, and what's the right thing to do right now? If you're looking to buy, is this the right time? Well, of course, the rule in real estate, right, is the best time to buy is right now. It's always the case. But I guess the question that I would want to kind of post to you all is like, well, what should someone be considering if someone's thinking about the market right now? What kind of things do they want to be taking into account? What kind of things should they be considering? What do we think? When you're buying real estate, you're really not buying it like you're buying a stock to take it and flip it or whatever. It's typically a long-term hold. So in some ways, it doesn't matter that much. But given today's economic situation, and given that there certainly seem to be storms on the horizon, it's always unsure. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know which way it's going to go. If a potential buyer comes to you, or a seller for that matter, comes to you folks and says, hey, what do you think I should do here? What do you see as the lay of the land? What's your best advice in these sort of economic times? What should I do? What's the right thing to do right now? What's your answer? Why don't we kind of start again, Dylan, because you've got some slides that you sent me in advance. Why don't you kind of get the ball rolling over here? And look, gang, we don't need Heidi and Scott and Dylan. We don't need to do this sort of like a round robin over here. If you guys feel less, just jump in on a conversation or jump in on a point. We're all going to get sort of our turn to talk, but we don't have to wait for our turn. Just jump in if you got something that you want to say that's relevant. Dylan, why don't you get us started?
Yeah, I just threw out a couple of slides here to illustrate, because we keep going back to people saying there's a housing market crash coming and the doom and gloom. And I always like to go back and look at some data points and then what caused it and what the current situation we're in now looks like and compare them, right? So we have a couple of slides. So you can just throw the first one up that has the buyer and product risk in terms of lending standards. And this is something that we keep pointing back to, that the lending market is not what it was in the early 2000s, right? And this is just a graph that shows product risk versus borrower risk. So product risk is the loan program, right? You did all of these no down payment, no income verification loans in the early 2000s, which just don't exist anymore, right? So these really high risk type of mortgage programs. And then the borrower risk is, how much risk does a borrower have in terms of their ability to repay the loan, their credit score, things like that. And if you look at just in both cases, the product risk has almost gone away completely, right? Because there are no more of those really high risk loans out there. And then the borrower risk has gone down too, because borrowers are just in a better place financially than they were in the early 2000s. You just have to be in order to qualify for a loan. So if you look at that hasn't changed, right? I mean, we don't have all that risk in the market, and obviously that's going to cause a lot more stability. So if we go to the next slide, this one has the amount of loans given to people with a credit score of under 620, right? So beyond 2007, that number fell dramatically and hasn't changed since then, right? There's been stability in the market. So if you don't have 620 credit score isn't great to begin with. And if you don't have one, your ability to get a loan is pretty hard. And so this is just showing that there hasn't been any huge increase, right, in borrower risk or money being given to people that don't have the ability to repay. And I think Scott and Heidi can speak to, the last 24 months, if you're a marginal buyer that doesn't have a huge down payment and, it doesn't have a solid loan program, it was very hard to compete. And so those people weren't in the market for the last couple of years. And so, most of our buyers, even if, the market cools down, they put 30, 40, 50% down. They have equity in the house based off their down payment, right? They're not maxed out on their mortgage amount, and they don't really have a potential for foreclosure. So just a couple of things to consider in the grand scheme of things, that there is not the type of risk that caused the bubble the last time today.
So I'm catching the conditions of the bubble. The conditions of the bubble back then are not here today. So we're probably not going to have a fallout like the one that we had. So got it. That being said, Heidi, can you speak to, if someone comes to you and says, look, what's going on? The economy, I'm not too sure. Is this going to affect, how's it going to affect the market? What do you think is going to happen? Kind of what's your advice for someone who's considering, getting in right now?
Well, if you're looking to buy a home to live in, I think the best time to buy is always when you need a house to live in and you can afford it. So, I mean, it is important to make sure that you can afford what you're buying, you understand the interest rates, the payments, and everything. But I mean, long term, historically, owning real estate on Maui and many other places has been a great way for people to build wealth and not continue to pay rent. Now, a big part of the market on Maui as well is a resort second home market. We have a ton of investors, a ton of buyers who have made money in other places and are doing 1031 exchanges to bring money over to Maui and enjoy the lifestyle. And these type of buyers have a lot of wealth and they have holding power. So as long as Hawaii and Maui continues to be a desirable place to be, we have demand from many different areas. We're not related to one particular local job market. So I think if there's any indication of softening in prices, we'll just get more investors jumping in who've been on the sidelines, waiting to invest. And ultimately, I don't see a big opportunity with prices totally going down. I mean, unless, of course, there's something completely unexpected.
So what I hear you saying, honey, is that like unless sort of an asteroid strikes Maui or something, it's still going to have this high desirability, and because it's got desirability, and it also is attractive to the affluent. You're still going to have price stability over there. Before we move on to you, Scott, I want to just kind of say a couple things to everybody. First of all, what are your concerns? I didn't ask for that earlier. What are your concerns? If you're thinking about this, are you on the fence? Are you considering, what's in the back of your mind? What worries you? What is it your concerns are? Pop that in the comments and I'll see if I can take it. I want to get a few comments that have come in since then. Before we move on to you, Scott, first we had Joan. Joan is an alumni of the Island of Ohana. Joan says, Josh Green is the candidate running for governor in the state of Hawaii, claims that if elected, he will build tens of thousands of new homes. Where would he get the land and where would the water come from? Joan, I know that my co-host will attest to this. I don't know of anyone who's run for office in the past 40 years who hasn't said that affordable housing is their number one priority. So everyone has said they care about affordable housing, and we don't have affordable housing. So
and let's not forget, Josh Green spent like 10 years in the state house, then 10 years in the state senate, and 4 years as lieutenant governor, and now he's identifying that we need 10,000 new houses. Wow, what an epiphany! Smart guy.
Amazing. He was a Big Island rep for a bunch of years, right?
Yeah, he was my rep here in Kona.
He was your rep in Kona for years and years and years. And how's the affordable housing going in Kona due to Josh Green's leadership?
I'm glad he's just finding out that's a problem now.
Well, there you go. So a little bit of humor there, Joan, but I think you get the idea. Joan, your question is a good one, and the question would be to put that forth to the governor and the candidate, Josh, and say, give me the exact plan. Where exactly are you going to put these homes? Where are these 10,000 lots available, etc.? That's a good one, Joan. Ask him. See what he says. Bernard says, hey, is there a tips reference guide I can use to help me manage through a condo hunting period? I'm looking for a 4 to 5 month rent lease. When, where, ship, store my furniture while hunting, car licensing. Bernard, you want to talk to Scott, because I think Scott, I don't know if you want to announce anything now, Scott, but Scott's got something.
Well, not yet. I'm not ready to announce that.
That's right. Not ready yet.
But what I would say, Bernard, is, part of my background is I helped create the relocation department for a company that I own, which means I did move management. We had to build out the whole department when it comes to helping corporations like Home Depot, Lowe's, Microsoft, others move their employees here. So we did what we call move management, which is point to point handling for relocation, overseeing things, working with people on the other end. So this is a whole part of the process that I built out 15 years ago, helped built out. So just let's catch up whenever you get time, and we can kind of walk through those steps. It's that's a part of the service that we provide. That's why we're here on the show, right?
You are in good hands, Bernard, because I know you've been talking to Scott. So there's your go-to guy, Scott. Scott has got the reference. Let's take a few more here. Norm, trying to move up our schedule. In Livermore House are staying on the market, but prices are still holding. Seems Big on is very favorable to buy ASAP. I think Dylan would agree with that. Dylan, from what you said, it seems like there's a sweet spot right now on the Big Island, Dylan, that where you said that buyers are a little bit more motivated to kind of sell, and sellers have a bit more leverage. So
just an interesting anecdote. 2 days ago, there's a market update that has all of the current activity, new listings, price drops, things going under contract and stuff. And there was 3 homes in Kona with 6-figure price drops all in a row. So it's just showing that the property value didn't necessarily go down. They just listed it too high, right? And sellers are starting to come around and saying, okay, if I'm going to get this actually sold, I kind of be unreasonable. I'd be asking 100,000 more than the house is worth, because the buyers aren't paying that anymore. So just an interesting takeaway. And we're seeing more of that. You look on the update, you can see the red numbers and the downward arrows of prices dropping on listed properties that have been sitting for a month or two. So
interesting. So it's finally coming around. The as we said the last show, the bananas are the bananas are coming off the tree. It's not so many bananas anymore.
And don't get me wrong, buyers are still paying full price for a property that is properly priced. They're just not paying 10% over what it's if it's improperly priced 10% over what it's worth, buyers aren't paying for it anymore, right? So sellers are going to have to come around and be more reasonable about where they list property at.
So the market is basically doing its thing. The market is doing its thing. Go ahead, Scott.
We're in an adjustment period where sellers are still over here a little bit and buyers are here. And so now the market's forcing the sellers to start to come back to where the market is.
The looks like the crazy days are slowing down, at least, if not coming to an end overall, which is going to be a welcome thing. Paul asked, how do you keep salt air from destroying your cars? Paul, we've talked about this in some previous episodes. You can't. That's the simple answer. You can't. And everything, the closer, so the moral of the story is which is why a lot of people don't like being so close to the beach. And Dylan, you put a video on your website not too long ago about the beach house. I think it was maybe in response not to what we had done earlier, but yeah, a beach house and metal do not go well. And cars will basically decay, and you can almost watch in real time. Go ahead, Dylan.
There's certain things that you just have to accept in Hawaii, and salt air is one of them. I had somebody walk into our office the other day and say, "Are you from here?" I said, "Yes." She says, "What do I got to do? What's the secret to keep the geckos out of my house?" And I said, "The secret is to accept the geckos, because you're never going to keep them out. So just give up. It's a war you will not win."
Dylan, I'll dig up my proverbs there. Geckos are in Proverbs, where in 3,000 years ago they were complaining that geckos are in the king's palace. So geckos have been around for a very long time, longer than we have, and you're absolutely right. Learn to love geckos is the moral of the story. Mark Lowe, alum of the Aloha Ohana. Mark, you're hanging out in Poipu. Awesome. I hope you're having a good time there. How do all of the forbearances that were forgiven play into the credit status? Man, that's some technical words over there.
Hey,
Dylan, go ahead. You got a slide.
Perfect timing. Throw the next slide up. I got that slide for you.
Mark, we got a slide. Look at that. We got a slide for you, buddy. Look at that. As if he knew. Go ahead, Dylan.
Yeah, this just shows the number of loans that are in active forbearance in millions.
First of all, Dylan, excuse me. I want to interrupt just for a minute. First of all, let's explain Mark's question, because I need to know I'm like a normal person here. What is a forbearance, and what does it mean, forgive and playing to their credit? So what's a forbearance, first of all?
Yeah, it was a new word we all learned. I think all of us learned this word in 2020 when COVID hit. So it was a policy that was passed to allow mortgage owners to delay payment of their loans. So if you applied for forbearance and were accepted, you would not have to pay on your loan during that period of time. It didn't mean the payments went away. What they were doing was adding them on the back end. And I think we've talked about this in the past on the show. Okay. But yeah, it just basically meant you were kind of in distress, right? You couldn't pay your mortgage, and they were giving you relief from paying your mortgage. So at that time,
you're given a break of X amount. You're given a break of X amount of mortgage payments, and those are kind of tacked on the end of your loan. So it's not free money. It's just like a little bit of a break.
Yeah, or you could catch up and pay it off in the future. Yeah,
got it.
So the slide is showing the number of loans that are in active forbearance, and of course, going back to the media, they don't report on this stuff because it's not scary anymore. But this is like really good news, right? I mean, we went from almost 5 million homes in forbearance in, the mid 2020 time frame to, I mean, we're down below a million today, and that's kind of like the normal number in America on how many loans are in distress. So this is like a non-issue anymore, and that's why you don't hear it reported in the news anymore, is because it's just not something that's scary, right? During the late 2020, you were hearing about the number of people in forbearance all the time. It was in the news all the time. And now that it's pretty much been resolved, everybody's caught up or been, they've resolved those issues, or they've negotiated with their bank and they're just going to pay on the back end. Not an issue. So that's another good point, that we're not in a situation where there's going to be this huge flood of foreclosures come 6 months from now if the economy does something weird, because that just doesn't exist. There isn't an abnormal number of people that are in distress right now.
So basically the general response to Mark's question is, it's not that much of a factor any longer. Basically, it's not
non-factor.
It's not. It's a non-factor. So that's hopefully good news. Bernard, yeah, great, chiming on back. Excellent, good. We'll look forward to seeing you, Bernard. I'm looking forward to it. Norm, we're concerned that about our local market dropping, making the move difficult. Wasn't necessary to update our home much in the hot market, but I feel this is changing. Yeah, that's a concern about that. So let's just flip it real quick. Scott, how would you respond to the seller concern? What should a seller do in today's market? What would be your recommendation to Norm?
Yeah, I mean, so Norm's talking about two very different, or could be two very different markets, and you have to look at them separately and individually to assess your situation and your time frame. If you're wanting to get the most out of the money, out of your property wherever you are, then you need to assess that market, what's it doing versus what Hawaii's doing, and be able to plan and prep for that. Because if the economic factors are getting the most amount of money out of the home you're going to sell is important to be able to make the move, then timing becomes a factor, and you're really looking at two transactions at one at that point, because you're shifting money. You're doing a trade across, but what are those two markets doing? How are they acting? And can you achieve those goals? What's the best way to do it? So you do have to separate them out, and that's part of the strategy. And that's again where we come into play, because if we're whether you want us to put you in touch with someone there who's competent, and we work with them together, and then we help with the move management portion. I mean, that's essentially what good realtors do, is they're able to work with both sides, work with someone over there, because I have no idea what your market is and what you're doing there, but we can work together in tandem to figure out the best strategy for you to make sure that you find success.
Yeah, excellent. That's a great point. And Norm, hope that helps you out. That you got your answer there. And also Mark Lowe, hope you got your answer there, because I see you had a follow-up one on forbearances. So hopefully that answers your question. If it hasn't, make sure you let us know. Joan comes back and says, I knew Josh Green was full of it. As soon as I saw those ads, I knew he wasn't getting my vote. Maybe so, but let me politicians being full of it is a constant throughout the universe. So Joan, I would caution one, not to say for or against, but I would caution one against voting for or against a politician because they're full of it, because in my view, they're all full of it because they have to kind of put their thing. So the real question is Joan, is compared to who? Compared to what? Right? You've got a lot of different candidates. There's still a primary season. If you're going to vote in the Democratic primary, there's, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's Josh Green, there's Kai Kahele, and then there's Vicky Cayetano. So you really have to look at the three. Perfection is never the case. It's always about the least evil or the best of the bunch. So it's always compared to who. Yeah,
and I just put a video out on my YouTube channel yesterday, I believe, about related to this, about 75% of the land in Hawaii is owned by like 7 entities, right? So the answer, what you want to hear from a politician, is what they're going to do to make land available, not for them to build houses, because they're never going to do it right, but for regular people to build houses. And so less than 2% of the land, on the Big Island is zoned for any type of urban development. And so the solution is, let's just make a 0.5% more or 1% more land available to build stuff on. And that's all government has to do, right? Is make that available, put some infrastructure in, and then let regular people take care of it, let the market take care of it. And you would solve a lot of these problems. But when you say, I'm going to go out there and build 10,000 houses, like, the state of Hawaii is not going to do that. And we know that. But what they can do is make it more accessible and possible, because right now it's just impossible to develop land. It's so expensive or so prohibitive to take a piece of, a 10-acre piece of property and turn it into 25 buildable lots for regular folks. That it doesn't happen, and that's why we have an affordable housing problem.
Yeah, and we've touched on this so many times earlier, Joan. I know that you've heard this with the fundamental problem of the affordable housing problem in Hawaii. It's always comes back to simple economics. It's supply and demand, and the simple truth is people in Hawaii don't want more supply. People in Hawaii don't want more development. They don't want it. If there's a place that's being developed, it's like, nope, not here. So you've never seen you've never seen a public demonstration of people that are clamoring to have homes built. You never see that. It's always the opposite. Always.
Did I tell you the story about Kamehameha Schools wanting to develop some condos near Keauhou Bay?
No. Sure.
This
it's a good one.
This is probably the most crazy, ironic thing I've ever seen. Right? Is that Kamehameha Schools, right? Which is a trust that from the Hawaiian, that kind of came from the Hawaiian Kingdom lands. They own a bunch of property around a place called Keauhou Bay, which is already a kind of a condo resort area. The outrigger Keauhou is there. And, the surrounding residents that own condos are opposing it. I mean, they're basically telling Hawaiians they cannot build on the land that they own. I mean, it's the most insane thing. And these are all people that came from the mainland that bought a condo on a golf course, right? I mean, so that's the kind of stuff we deal with, where these people want to develop and make more, property available to buy in the form of a condo. And they're saying, they're opposing it. It's just totally ironic. It's insane.
I think we mentioned this earlier, and not to riff on it again, but what my favorite recent story is the elderly care home that is being proposed to be built in Manoa Valley on top of a Chinese graveyard that's basically going to be going bankrupt unless they do something to kind of save it. And I love the quotes, because the quotes, now Manoa Valley is a beautiful valley. It's a kind of a sleepy neighborhood. It's primo real estate on Oahu, probably one of the most desirable neighborhoods there are. And the residents, great quote on the residents, like, yeah, we really support having a home for the elderly, but not over here. This is just not the right place for it. It's like, you know what? I get it. We get it, man. We get it. We get it. All right.
I got one more good story about this attitude. This is something everybody that watches this has to be aware of, right? I sold this 14-acre piece of property to a local Hawaiian businessman, very successful local guy, and he's not sure what he wants to do with it, but he wants to clean it up because it's right next to a kind of a higher end subdivision here in Kona. And so he brought goat dozers in. If you've heard of goat dozers, it's like basically there's these guys that own this company that they'll come in and put up temporary fencing, bring in a big herd of goats, and they clear out all of the grass and the weeds and stuff. And the residents next door from these nice houses were calling the county and complaining about this guy that the goats were making too much noise. And so his response was, "Would you rather me bring the D6? Because I own one of those too. Because I could gladly bring in the bulldozer if you want that." Like, he's trying to be a good neighbor, trying to do the right thing, the environmentally friendly thing, and people still bitch and complain. And it's amazing the attitude that people have about stuff like that.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. The goats.
The goats are making too much noise. He's like, "What do you think goats do? They bad. That's what they do. Like, what do you want me to do about the goats?"
That's funny. That is a good one. And now, just real quick, you called it. You said goat mowing. What did you call it? Goat
dozers.
Goat dozers.
Google it.
Now,
goat dozers. Yeah. So instead of bringing in a bulldozer to clear land, if you have land that's overgrown with invasive grass and stuff like that, they bring in like 50 goats and they temporarily fence it, and the goats just go through and they put them there for 2 days and they eat it. They eat everything. It's a great system. Yeah, it's a great environmentally friendly way to clear your property. And apparently, people would rather have a bulldozer come in there and a D9.
That's right, because goats also they're known for eating plants to the ground, to the bottom, just as bottom of the ground, the way they do. Interesting. Little known fact. All right. Hey, so look, we've touched on this. Is there anything, folks, that you'd like to know that we haven't kind of touched on as far as kind of what's going on economically, or between Dylan and Heidi and Scott? Is there anything that we missed? Is there anything that you missed that we kind of would want people to know? Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. I mean, essentially what Dylan has shown in those slides is that there's very little risk going on right now. In fact, with since the downturn in 2008, essentially it made it a lot harder to get a loan. That means less people were getting loans, the more money they were putting down. And people had a hangover from that time period and got more conservative, and they're staying in their homes longer. And what that led to was the highest percentage of equity built up in homes over the last 50 years. So even if there is a downturn and a recession, you've got some recession-proof stuff built in. The risk in the market is actually very low. And it's funny because even if you look back at interest rates prior to COVID, where the average was about 4.5, I think it was 4.54%. And then when COVID hit, those rates dropped to 2.75%. So if you owned a home at that point, you should have done one of two things. One is you refinanced into a 2.75% mortgage. And if you had $1 million mortgage at 4.5% roughly, you all of a sudden would qualify for $1.225 million loan. That it would be the same payment at 2.75% if you took out that much money. So even if all you did was refinance, you reduced your monthly payment. That's lowering risk, right? This is a part of the reason why I don't feel like we're going to have a recession is, people that were moving they sold their home and moved across the street or moved to Hawaii, moved to Zoom towns, which that's what the pandemic created, was a reassessment of their lifestyle, and interest rates dropped to make capital extremely affordable. So if you moved, you sold your home where you had $1 million mortgage and you were getting $1 million mortgage 2-3 months later when you were buying in the new destination, your house payment was actually less, right? So the risk component in the market, actually, it's not that high. So it's been very good. The problem I see going forward and why I don't think we're going to have a glut of inventory on the market is because everybody that made a move or refinanced has a 3% mortgage rate, let's call it. If you want to sell that $1 million home and buy the $1 million home across the street, it will cost you more to buy that home because interest rates are almost 6% now. The cost of your mortgage payment would go up. So you have a financial disincentive, you're financially disincentivized to make that move at this point. So you're going to have more people hold in place, meaning you're going to have less inventory coming on the market. So I don't see a glut. Even if we have a recession, a downturn, most people are in a financially very low risk component with a lot of equity in their property, and they're financially, disincentivized to come on the market. They're only moving unless they have to. So, Oahu's at 1.5 months inventory. We have 585 active homes on the market right now. A normal market, we're going to want, a balanced market, we're going to want close to 1,500 homes on the market. I don't see us getting there because of that disincentive, the disincentive because of low interest rates. It's the golden handcuffs. They keep you in place, right?
Scott, thanks for spelling that out in that way. I think that's been really helpful. Here's the takeaway I'm getting from what you folks have been saying. The takeaway I get is this: is that recession or not, economic recession or not, it's not going to affect the market that significantly. We're not going to be in a situation where people are going to be basically dumping their homes because they're over leveraged and they can't make whether or not they can make the payments as a result of recession. Let's say they lose their job or whatnot, there's a better chance that they'll be able to ride it out because they're not over leveraged. There's not this situation where the market's going to fall out. So the recession, if it comes and whatever kind of ends up happening, we're going to have more of a situation where it's going to ride out. The market's going to ride it out. You're not going to see a big effect on the market. You're not going to see this massive drop in property values. Yes, things may cool off a little bit. Things may kind of move around. The inventories are going to shift. Scott, you gave a great argument for why there won't be new inventory on the market. Existing loan holders are going to hold on to that loan because they don't want to switch from a 2.7 into a 5 point from a 2.7 loan to a 6% loan. No one's going to want to do that, so they're going to want to hold on to that. That's a very good point. So there's a good argument to be made about that. But I'm kind of the big takeaway for me is, hey, it doesn't seem to be the market, the real estate market we're not going to see like a fallout of the market where prices are going to plummet and things like that. So if you're going to, like Heidi, you put it so well, it was so simple. The best time to buy is when you need a house to move into and you can afford it. It's like that's like such a great way to put it. So, is there anything that you guys want to add to this?
I do have one slide in there that I think is really important to look at. And so there's a couple of things. I mean, obviously with rates going up, inflation is going up, which if you look, there's two components here. Since 2006, the number of houses that we've built new homes has dramatically dropped. We way underproduced new homes that we needed, and the interest rate drop, the pandemic, the movement of buyers to buy really exacerbated that.
Is that slide with the graph on it?
Yep.
Here,
yeah, this one.
Okay.
So I went ahead and circled it. This is from the Fed Reserve website. So this is new housing starts. Basically, at the top peak was 2006, and then you go off a cliff of new home construction, and we hit a bottom, and now we've started to make our way up. But we've talked about this in previous shows. We're way under building for what we need to be able to provide the inventory out there in the marketplace. And new home construction makes up about 10% of the inventory that nationally that we put out into the marketplace. So we're nowhere near back to where the levels we need to be. They say it's going to take about a decade to generate the amount of inventory in new housing to make up for the shortage that we have. Then on top of it, you add into the fact of inflation going on. To building materials are up 19%, just call it 20%. So a home that cost $500,000 to build last year is now $600,000 to build. On top of that, when you got builders who use a revolving line of credit to buy those materials, that revolving line of credit interest rate is higher, so the cost to borrow those materials costs more. And you've now had interest rates going up, so there's less buyers in the market. You've now created a reason for new home construction builders or builders in general to build less homes. So that's another reason why I don't think we're going to end up seeing a big pullback in this market, because we've been, you're disincentivized to put your home on the market as a resale person and go and buy another one. And the builders are being disincentivized because the costs are more, but they can't really, justify increasing the price on the home of those because the buyers can't afford it because of lack of affordability that's happened with interest rate rises. So I see the combination of all these things just not really. I think we normalize, and I think we may flatten out. I see this being a market where there's a lot less sellers and a lot less buyers, and we're maybe balanced, but not a pullback.
Not a big pullback, not a huge price drop. I mean, notwithstanding an asteroid strike, so to speak, things are not. You're not going to see a dramatic change. If you're looking at buying, buy. If you can't buy, you don't. But like Heidi's advice, you have the best time to buy is when you need to move, when you need to live in a house and you can afford it. Dylan, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, the last slide 8, right? This is the sums it all up. This is the short story. So the thing we got to take away and always remember is recession does not mean housing crisis, right? And that's the last time we had a recession, we had a housing crisis. So that's what people remember. That's kind of like our short memory. But if you look at from 1945 to today, there's only been one time in really history of the housing market where there was a fall in prices, and that was in 2006 because of all of the crazy lending stuff was going on, right? That was a unique market because of how risky the lending situation was. And if you look at the trajectory of this graph, I mean, in 2001, we're kind of just back to where we would have been if there was no housing crisis in 2006, right? It has appreciated quickly, but we're just kind of catching up to where we should be. And so if you look back at this graph and these other, where it kind of tops off, those were recessions, right? The 80s recession, the 90s recession, those were times when the economy did go into recession. What did the housing market do? It kind of just cooled off, but there was still a small amount of appreciation and it just kept on going up. So housing crisis recession does not equal housing crisis. And so we could definitely be going into a recession. No doubt about that. That could be for the next 12 months, but that does not mean that the housing market's going to be dramatically affected by it.
So really that housing crisis that's so, deeply in our minds, and bring that right up, that housing thing that happened in 2008, which is so in everyone's mind, it's fresh enough where we could all remember it. that was literally a once in a lifetime, literally once in a lifetime historic event, right? That
Yep.
happened once, and we know the reasons why, and those reasons do not exist now. So basically, to put this in a different way, I haven't heard any reason to think that there's going to be anything like a 2008 thing kind of happening again. It's just too fresh in our memory, and it makes us think about that. But that's just not going to happen.
And it also matters how you look at the data, right? Because a lot of times I've seen on the news where they say, they show these, instead of showing a line graph, they show a bar graph, right? And they show like last year there was 20% appreciation, and this year it's projected we're going to have 5% appreciation. So it looks like there's like this drop, right? But that's appreciation. That means this price still went up. It just went up 5% as opposed to 20%, right? So it's not prices dropping, right? I mean, but when you look at it that way, it looks dramatic because it looks like things are going down. But it just means that, I mean, all economic experts are saying, we're still going to have 5 to 7% interest, or 5 to 7% appreciation over the next couple of years. We're just not going to have the 20% year over year like we've been seeing.
Right. All right. Go ahead, Scott. We need to wrap this up, but this is important stuff. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, there's two components. One, who's going to create the recession on this? It's going to be the Fed, if anything, because they're raising rates to slow down the economy, which would slow down inflation, right? And no way any politician is going to allow, and the Treasury doesn't want to do it. The Fed doesn't want to do it, which is run the economy into the ground where we're losing mass jobs. No politician is going to stand for that, right? They're trying to do a soft landing. So I don't see it being done that way. The other way you got to look at it is 2008 was a real estate recession. It was real estate related. This is not. This is totally different.
Yeah. Excellent points. Excellent. Great stuff. Hey, let's catch up on some comments that have popped in. And Jones got, we get the one already. Let's see. We got Jones' comment earlier. Here we go. Dylan, that's why I want to be the last Haole off the boat. Dylan had talked about this last Haole off the boat syndrome. I feel Native Hawaiians should be getting the homes they were promised. Yeah, Joan, that's a whole story unto itself. It's a tragic story of Hawaiians waiting in line, literally dying in line, waiting for the homes that they were promised. And unfortunately, it's the government groups that's not doing what they promised. Anyway, that's a whole other story. It's many episodes many documentaries can fill that one, Joan. Many. She Who Laughs, love that one. Goatscaping, grazing goats to manage vegetation growth in an environmentally sound manner. There, goatscaping. There we go. Excellent. Thank you, She Who Laughs. Rachel says, thank you for hosting the show. Such a wonderful community resource in our decision to move to Kauai. Also, special thanks to Scott for your quote weeks ago. Something like, don't let perfect be the enemy of done. I've held on to this throughout our move. Well, Rachel, we're glad that you were a part of it, and glad that the first time I've seen you comment. So you were a lurker all these weeks, but we're glad that you're here and glad that you're finding benefit. Evil Hermit, I still love that name. Might have to get some goats instead of a lawnmower. Your neighbors might be upset with you because the goats are too loud. It could happen. It could happen. Auntie Joyce says, can't get goats here. Chris needs his Friday lawn mowing project. I'm sure Chris might want some goats. Nothing wrong with a little pet goat going on over here. And then we have Candace. We do that here in Oregon. Goats are amazing. What a cool way. What a cool way to do it. Hey, what about that question, Dylan, on the Airbnb and the tiny houses? Can you touch on that real quick for Evil Hermit?
As long as your neighborhood CC&Rs don't prohibit it, you should be fine if you live on the property.
And CC&R is stands for what?
Covenants, codes, and restrictions.
So you need to kind of so the advice is you need to kind of get a hold with.
Maybe an idea is we should bring my buddy Chad on, who builds tiny homes here. I just met with him yesterday because we're looking at the potential of doing a tiny home on a piece of property that we bought. But we could do an hour. He's a wealth of knowledge about the process and challenges and stuff. But yeah, we could talk about. Let's plan that. Hey, because there's a lot of interest. It's my number 2 YouTube video of all time is my tiny home interview with him. So people are very interested in it.
All right. So, hey, gang, can you confirm or deny this? If we did a special episode on tiny homes, if we did it on a Friday, would you show up? Would you participate on an alternate Friday, not the normal every other Friday? Those are sacred. We keep those for us. But if there was another Friday, the in-between Friday, if we did a show on tiny homes, would you attend? Let me know. And if we get dry sides lurking silently, there you go. If we're doing it, we'd love to hear about you. Evil Herbert loves a tiny house, so and Uncle Jim says absolutely. All right, Uncle Jim. Well, we're gonna hold you to it, buddy. And Auntie Joyce says, yeah, she got the tiny episode love. So let's do it. All right, look, we need to move on because we are just almost out of time over here. So let's do. We got some featured properties, so we need to kind of do this. Our little our diamonds and deals. We bring our sort of aspirational properties that we think are either diamonds or deals. Thank you all for being with us. Let's get right into this. Wow, Heidi, this is cool. What is it? 1.22. What is it, Heidi? Looks awesome.
So this is an oceanfront condominium. It's in West Maui, just north of Lahaina. And you can see on the picture on the right side in the center, that's the entire building. There's just 12 units in this building. And then the unit for sale is a second floor, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, plus a loft, and it's vacation rentable. There's a little sandy beach in front. You see a lot of green sea turtles. The unit looks directly west, so you're gonna see sunset views all year. And yeah, I just thought it was kind of unique. I really like the high ceilings, and all the windows are jealousy windows. It's designed to take advantage of the ocean breeze and the airflow. There's no AC. It's all about,
because you don't need it. You get the trade winds. The trade winds are flowing through, right? You got those. You open up those jealousies, and you got the wind blowing. Man, I just could imagine. I can't even imagine like preparing meals on that kitchen counter there. While you got that insane ocean view. That, I'm not too sure, Heidi, if I would take this or the cat sanctuary on Lanai for living the dream. There's some competition here. This is an amazing property. Thank you, Heidi. And then you said it's ocean. Well, it's oceanfront. You've got the picture of the property right there. Amazing. Thank you for that incredible diamond, Heidi. Scott, Lanikai. Oof, what is this? Lanikai is probably, I think, one of the most, if not the most beautiful spot on Oahu. If I'm not, everything's subject to taste, but Lanikai is amazing. Scott, what is this?
Yeah, great location, Lanikai. This is up on the hillside, built into the hillside, which is, I've shown a couple of properties that sit further back, so you don't get the traffic from the loop. Obviously, if you go to leave, you're going to have to get into the traffic, but you're perched up. As you can see in kind of all three pictures on the left-hand side, they've perfectly framed in the mokes, the two islands out there in the distance, which is really cool. That's a part of the attraction of Lanikai. You got that land perspective out in the distance. You got sunrises that come up there. But this home's not built. It's under construction. These are architectural renderings. It's about 4,500 square feet of home. Over 1,000 square foot of covered lanai space. You can see it's very open concept out towards the ocean, and 14.88 million. So Lanikai starts at $2 million and goes up from there.
Yeah, that's enough. I mean, that is a stunning property, and you're going to get the benefit of having. I would think if you buy it, you'd have some sort of input on the architect. I'm assuming that the architect would be waiting for the finalize the plans based on the buyer. I would think, right?
It depends. I mean, that adds significant complexity when you start doing that. You default on that and you've selected, the builder's gone and gotten materials for that, then it gets a little complicated. What I'm actually interested to see is how far along they are on this, because of the COVID complications with supply chains issues and building costs going up. I'm kind of interested to see where this ends up.
Yeah, that would be interesting. We have a couple of comments, but I'm going to hold on to those comments first because I want to get Dylan's property. I love the diversity. Isn't this here? Look at this, gang. So here we have the condo, the 2-bedroom condo in Maui, and then we got Dylan, what he's going to talk about in a minute here, and we have an incredible, stunning $14 million condo. I love this. Dylan, what are we looking at over here? What is this?
I love to share the open spaces and the rural areas, and this is actually right near Kailua Kona. It's actually like 5 minutes above Costco, 10 minutes away from the airport, but it's on an acre. I mean, it feels like a sanctuary. There's 4 bedrooms, 2 baths. There's actually a separate building for an office that doesn't have any plumbing or anything in it, but it's like a separate space where you don't have to have your office in the house. It's kind of like just a little square building next to it. You kind of see it in the top right there. But yeah, beautiful sweeping ocean views of the Kona coastline. 1 acre of pretty nicely usable property. And yeah, just quiet in the mountains of Koloko, and not super high elevation, so it's not super wet, right off the highway. But yeah, just this is a sign of the market. I am shocked this didn't sell in 2 days. It's been on the market like a week, and I'm like, this is like the deal of the week here in Kona for 119. Awesome opportunity. I mean, you can see that picture with the dining room table looking out right into the ocean.
Beautiful.
You're at about 1,500 feet elevation, so you never need any air conditioning. It's cool all the time. So great opportunity.
Love it. Hey, hey gang, what would you rather have for 1.2, the 2-bedroom oceanfront condo in Maui, or the 4-bedroom 2-bath on 1 acre over with the ocean view up in the mountains in Kona, or hey, the $14 million, the $14 million.
I'll take the $14 million
I think I'll take the $14 million. Stay a little overlooking Lanikai. That's brand new, by the way. Yeah, I think I'm going to take that. So we have a couple of comments. We're going to move on because we're really out of time here. Norms, thanks for another great show. Good ideas. Dylan, very cool shirt. Loving the shirt there. Paul, can you do a short-term vacation rental on Big Island Kona? Yes, I believe, but there's restrictions that apply. So Mark gives us the thumbs up on the tiny house. So that's a thumbs up on the tiny house. Ron says yes on the tiny house. Look, okay, we're doing it. Tell your tiny house guy, Dylan. I'll circle back with you later. We're going to do an episode on tiny homes. So get your questions ready. And by the way, folks, if you have here's the deal. So we're going to do this special, and you need to be on the newsletter, because that's how that's what I use to send the invite. So you want to go to livinginhawaii.com. Go there. If you haven't already subscribed, if you did not get here from a newsletter invite, you're not on the newsletter. Get on the newsletter, livinginhawaii.com, and you will get the invite to the show. It's going to be a special event. It won't be on the normal every other Friday. It'll be on a different Friday. All right, I think we are out of time, so we're gonna zoom into our closing thoughts over here. It's been a great show, as it usually is, and I'm never disappointed. Always looking forward. It's always different. Dylan, why don't you get us started over here and wake us up?
Yeah, I just heard this recently, and I love the mindset of whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so this is just one practice that you can do: is wake up in the morning, tell yourself say what needs to happen that day, what your goals are, and say, if you will, I will, to get your day started.
Those are great lines, and anyone who's gone through that to a certain degree about this, not so much the positive affirmation, but the idea of kind of putting something forward and staying focused on it and keeping at it until you get it done. That's what does it. Scott, I think this is the previous one, right? Do you have another one you want to share?
No, this is it. I didn't go over it last time. I changed it the last second.
That's
but
right.
Yeah,
okay, good.
I use this. There's always a learning lesson from anything you go through, positive or negative. To me, you learn more when you go through struggles, and the deeper the wounds, the more it hurts, the more there is to learn and learn about yourself and adjust moving forward.
Scott, maybe it's just me, but because I'm one stubborn SOB, I've only learned when I've gotten my butt kicked. That's the only time I've really learned. When I have great successes, it all goes to my head, and my head increases by several sizes. It's only when I get wounded do I actually really have things that I learn. So I'm with you on that one. Heidi, what's yours?
Invest in quality, take your time, do it right. This can apply to, physical things that you're investing in. So maybe, Scott, your furniture that you're buying for your house. But really, what this quote means to me is just really taking the time to do things right the first time. I've noticed that a lot of frustration and wasted time tends to come from when somebody's done a sloppy job initially or tried to cut corners. So it's just another reminder to slow down and be really thoughtful about what you're doing and what are the, how that's going to impact you long term. In every little thing that you do.
Yeah, how's that go? You better do it right the first time, otherwise you're just going to have to do it again. And that's the point. Hey, we had a bit of wisdom here from JD Reynolds. Live your weekend as it was your last. Yeah, JD, well said, man. Well said. I will live. There you go. And Dry Side's kicking in the affirmations. I will live on the Big Island. I will live in the Big Island. That's how you start. Dry Side. That's how it starts. Everything that's been accomplished starts with a thought. Every single thing that's been accomplished by humans starts with a thought, and that's how it all goes. All right, I'm going to close up with my piece over here and my classic here, Proverbs. A generous person will be enriched, and one who gives water will get water. And that is, that goes back to, if you truly, truly believe in abundance, that means you share. If you believe in lack, you don't. And if you get, you give water, you'll get water. So it really depends on kind of what you want to give in life. That's what you do. Generous persons will be enriched. And Jim and Kath agree. Be the solution, indeed. All right, we're gonna say goodbye. Let's go clockwise. Scott, Heidi, clockwise. Dylan, Heidi, and then Scott. Say goodbye, everybody.
Aloha, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Aloha. Happy Friday.
Aloha, everybody.
Have a good weekend, folks. Live the dream like the cats and like us on Hawaii. Aloha, everyone.